Blessed new moon, everyone. I'm going to start off by playing you a song, and then I'll talk a little bit about this lunar cycle. Pursue home, ceaselessly. Be where you are, relentlessly. Bechol Drachecha, Bechol Drachecha, Da'ehu, Da'ehu. Home is where you are, because that's where you happen to be. This is your resting place. For eternity. Bechol Drachecha, Bechol Drachecha, Da'ehu, Da'ehu. Pursue home, guiltlessly. Be what you are, relentlessly. Bechol Drachecha, Bechol Drachecha, Da'ehu, Da'ehu. Home is what you are, because that's what you happen to be. This is your resting place. For eternity. Bechol Drachecha, Bechol Drachecha, Da'ehu, translation of the Hebrew, I don't recall where it comes from, is Bechol Drachecha Da'ehu, in all of your ways, know the one. Or literally know him, which refers to the one. So I want to start off with that theme. Beautifully and synchronistically, so I've been really reflecting all day on how what I feel towards another or another thing, another person, whether it's love or hate or judgment, is really what I hold for myself. And I've noticed that I never, ever find that I'm open and loving while judging another. It's like judgment towards another always coincides with a sense of rightness and being in the know, being in the right. And in the same way, when I feel bad about myself and I feel anger or hatred towards myself, I'm never like inherently in those moments open and clear and genuinely present with other people. That the negative self-feelings always coincides with seeing other people as better off or comparing myself and feeling inadequate relative to others. I feel there's this infinite world of truth in just really coming back to this idea that there's only one. And that what I feel towards another is what I feel towards myself. And that it's not a self-other thing because there's just one. I share this because because I've been thinking about it, and that's really why I'm sharing it. But the transits for today they're strong, and this new moon's in Cancer with Mars and Mercury opposing Pluto and squaring Uranus. So there can be a lot of irritating energy. One expression of this, and maybe even this impulse to act or to do or to make choices from a place of feeling strong emotion. And as per Cancer, we have our self-image, which is our story of who we are, and it's what we project out there into the world. And it's what allows us to maintain a sense of security and continuity for ourselves. But very often, our story is really just a way of creating a false security because we're running from our emotions. And it's sort of tempting at times, especially I feel at this time, to feel and then to act, or to create a story, or to judge, and to try to put our life into some sort of box and other people and our situations into some sort of box that really allows us to say, okay, I know what it is. I get it now. This is what's going on, or this is who I am, and this is what I'm not. All these constructs that we create that really just take us away from what is real. And it takes us away from being at home. And I feel for myself, being at home happens whenever I enter into the vibration of feeling completely invited, completely 100% invited to be what I am, to feel what I am, to abide in the sense of safety and wholeness in whatever is being experienced. Like the metaphor of being held by the loving arms of the Great Mother, no matter what I'm feeling, no matter what emotion is going on. So there's an unconditional acceptance that I belong, I am loved, I am held. That's like the higher essence of Cancer, and really recognizing that there's no such thing in reality as I got mine and you got yours. When we come more to ourselves and we really come to this feeling of being at home, we naturally desire to provide that for other people. Because it's impossible to feel at home and to feel at peace with ourselves simultaneously while creating pain for another. There can be an illusion of home and peace, but it's not real. So true peace, true being at home with ourselves coincides always with genuinely wanting that for others and for everything around us. And I find for myself, when I notice my relationship to other people kind of falling short, or I'm not really feeling present, or I'm falling into patterns of doing certain things that I do that are usually a signpost of me not being very present with myself, For me, it's oftentimes operating from here mostly, and not really taking the time to, we can say, either feel or really connect with what the person's really feeling or needing, and also what I'm really feeling and needing. So when I find that happening, if I don't pay attention to it, other things will begin to happen. Usually I'll just continue eating, and basic caretaking won't happen. And there's like sort of a set fixed path that points to a sign of disconnect. And the healing to that is coming home. The turning point is coming home. And it's healing to recognize, okay, I'm not being at home within myself. And so when I find these patterns emerging, it's first and foremost, and this is sort of a Pluto thing, very hard to stop, and a Mars thing, and they're really connected this time. It's very hard to stop when we're in this go zone of operating based on old fears. And we all have ways of acting that come from this deeper need for security within ourselves. That we've learned how to act in certain ways. Maybe we've needed to act in certain ways at times to protect ourselves when other fundamental needs weren't being met. But more often than not, we'll reenact those ways of being when we don't need to. Like coming into an environment and seeing a reality of fear when there is none. Maybe when we were a child or something in the past where we actually were hurt in a very real way. So to nurture those moments, it's so important to not hold judgment, because we're not being rational. We're never being rational. It's not about that. So, for me, I often find that when I become just aware of what I'm doing, it's so important that I just stop and I get honest with myself with, what do I want? Like, what do I really care about? And this is one of those moments where no one is able to give us permission. No one's capable of telling us what to do or where to go or how to feel better about ourselves. Oftentimes we're graced and we're gifted with the blessing of other people that can reflect. What's going on here? Yeah. This is what happens when you make videos without wearing glasses. How do I look? Not so bad. Oftentimes there's the grace of people coming back to reflect our love and our wholeness. Someone coming and feeding us the meal, metaphorically or literally. But sometimes that won't happen. And when it comes down to it, sometimes we're really just called to find that guidance and that truth within ourselves, and to give ourselves permission to live. And there's a huge difference between living and trying to live. And this is something that I'm always learning in my seeking of authenticity. Authenticity to me is what home is. And there's no difference between the two. We can be at home in ourselves, living alone, and feel completely safe, or we can be full of beautiful people and so much care and so much connection and feel completely separate from it all. It doesn't really matter where we are. It really comes down to how deeply we desire to connect with our true purpose and what we really care about in life. All right, let's fix this shirt for the for the closing scene here. We inside out? We are. Okay. So I'll share one more thing, just where I'm at in my life, and I want to share this. In many ways, I'm still figuring out what the heck I'm doing. And I know a part of a Mars thing we can say is where we can easily just do things, especially if we know how to do it well. In fact, we all do that. We all do what we know how to do well frequently. And what we know how to do well isn't necessarily what feeds us. It may just be what we're secure with or what we're comfortable with. And I get a lot out of certain things that I know how to do well, and I want to keep on doing them. And I deeply love astrology, and I deeply, deeply love working with people one-on-one, and doing my intuitive guidance work. I deeply love teaching classes where the kind of teaching where I'm really speaking truth. It feels real for me, and I'm experiencing what it's like to really bring benefit to other people through sharing my heart. And I deeply love playing music and sharing my music and taking steps towards creating the space to share that more in this life. And I'm learning what I love, and for the most part, there's a lot of questions, there's a lot of unknowns, and my journey right now is very much about being willing to find out what's true over and over again. Like, okay, I do this, I do that, and do I really want to? Even if I can, so I don't do so much astrology in terms of interpretive work or mental analysis type thing anymore. I feel that this is a time where I'm integrating that into my life, into the things that I really love doing, which is more of the counseling and the guidance work that I do. And so that's been a shift that I've been embracing over the past few months. For those astrologically inclined, this happened when Neptune was squaring my Uranus, and I had a computer virus and couldn't use my astrology software for a moment because my whole had to just let go of my whole computer. And during that time, I really felt how free it was, how freeing it felt to not look at a chart. So I've begun doing sessions where I keep the chart in my awareness, and I'm working with it, I'm praying with it, I'm holding it in my heart as I prepare for the session, but I'm focusing entirely on the individual. I'm focusing entirely on really connecting with the soul, with the essence of the person that I'm with. And I find that by making the person the reference point, the primary reference point, and the chart the secondary reference point, whereas in the past it was literally the reversed. By making the person the primary reference point, all the information that's in the chart is actually right here. It's in you. It's vibrating all around you and everywhere. And by being open to it, the same story, the same archetypes, the same energies can become more directly experienced. And interestingly, and this is sort of a beautiful teaching that I'm coming to find, as I'm letting go of the identity that's been more mentally focused, like the identity of needing to know, needing to have answers, which I feel is what has mostly kept me focused towards astrological interpretation as my main thing. By letting go of that and actually focusing more on the heart, on connection, which is what I truly care about, interestingly, I'm learning so much more astrology because everything is clicking on deeper levels, and I'm understanding the soul and how this stuff really works on just completely new levels, and it's absolutely humbling and beautiful. And I realize as we evolve, as we grow, as we let go of operating from unconscious desire, as we let go of identities that are really just ways of sustaining compulsions and addictions that maybe served us in the past, but at a certain point hold us back. As we let go of that, interestingly and beautifully, what we really desire most comes to us via our love, via our passion. And I'm finding many examples of this in my life. And yet, it's also humbling to kind of continue learning and noticing that the things that I'm grabbing onto, the desires that I have that I'm really trying to fulfill, and I'm almost addicted to resolution in some cases, those are the places where I become ever more distant from what I truly care about, from what I truly want. Okay. So this feels like a good closing. So for this new moon, as I look into this, I feel that there's a great invitation for stillness and silence. And there's so much wisdom and there's so much beauty in realizing that there's almost this impulse, a conditioned impulse that we have to act and to make choices from a place of emotional stress. It's almost hard not to sometimes because we feel that we need to. We need to solve things. And yet, in most cases, I'm finding and I'm learning that we don't need to act. That a lot of our actions are really just a way of sustaining and perpetuating an unnecessary identity. And if we will allow for the possibility of deeper peace and deeper fulfillment, deeper well-being for ourselves and for everyone, we will have more patience to question our impulses, to question the need to move and to do and to figure it out. And in waiting, we open up to a genuine acceptance that we maybe don't know, that there's more for us to see. In silence, we allow ourselves to settle back into a deeper trust that things are okay the way they are. Deeper Cancer teaching, I feel, is also sort of that, like how a baby, when it's crying, there's not an intellectual sense of I'm okay, but when it's held, it's a embodied sense of I'm okay. Give ourselves that embodied sense of okayness. And when we start to understand home as something that is universal, we begin to practice connecting to that universal understanding more and more in our life. And as we practice that, we begin to make choices from the place of oneness, from the place of being at home in a true sense. And that's the place from which our deepest dreams and our desires can really be fulfilled. One more thing that I see here is it's so, what we are is so great. And we have a deep, my friend Alice on her site, I'll post it in the link below, shared something on a blog or page that I read recently, which is, there are two desires within everyone. This is a rough quote. One is the desire to fully share themselves, and the other is the desire to be seen, to be heard, to fully listen, to fully be met, to fully meet. And when these two desires aren't met, it creates war. We become at odds because this desire to fully share ourselves and to fully be seen, to fully live, to fully invite others to live, is honoring and respecting the unity, what is actually natural and true. And when we distance ourselves from that, it gets really confusing, and we gotta reconcile the sense of disunity in some way. And so it's very common that we have deep within us these deeper yearnings, these deeper dreams and desires for what we want out of our life, but they're so deep. Like, they're so deep and they're so meaningful that it almost hurts, because we want it so much. We want it so much, and relative to the extent to which we are holding on to all kinds of other identities that compel addictions and ways of forcing reality and holding on to what doesn't really serve us, we will emotionally feel so far away from that which we want most. And so we oftentimes try to get what we want, but we'll do it in such a way where we can't get it, because it'll validate that deeply inwardly sensed belief that I don't deserve to have it, or I can't have it, I'm not allowed to have it. But I want to say that any emotion that we have is very important, very valid. If we are feeling an emotion towards something, if we are feeling a desire towards something, if something makes our heart sing, it doesn't matter how far away it seems to be, how intangible it seems to be. Notice that you're feeling something. Notice that you're inspired. Notice that there's something that really calls you, because that is the thread to a destiny, to your destiny, to the destiny. It is that deeper desire, that deeper yearning that we almost don't believe in, because it's so strong and so real. In silence and stillness, I'm finding that I reconnect with that deeper yearning, and the more I enter into silence, the deeper that energy comes up, which means it's almost easier to kind of act on it the more it comes up. But there's information there. There's a lot of information in what we feel and what we experience. And we're not taught in this world, in this culture, and pretty much anywhere in this world, to really listen to our emotions. Emotions often are held as things we have to solve or things we need to do things about. But emotions are the trail, the starting point for our destiny. They are everything we need to know about who we are, where we're going, and what's real for us and what isn't real for us. Emotions provide such valuable information. So I will close with one more song, and the recording hasn't stopped on me, so hopefully this will upload. Open to the notion that emotion is devotion. Everything I feel in every moment is divine. I'm open to the notion that emotion is devotion. And everything I feel in every moment is divine. Oh, this present moment. This this present moment. Alright, blessed new moon, everyone, and much love.